Hey everyone, welcome back to the Life of a Makeup Artist podcast. I am so excited because today we have Amy of SkinFix. Now, I tried one or two products from the brand that I've actually been in love with, like the lipid peptide cream. But I did not realize how much I was asleep. Now, I made some friends on Clubhouse, Dr. Adeline, Dr. Kavita Mariwala, who are amazing dermatologists, and they are in love with SkinFix. Now, I have eczema, I have keratosis pilaris, all the things, and I did not realize how great this brand was for treating those things. So let's get right into it. I'm really excited about this episode, so stay tuned.
Before we get into all things SkinFix, I'd love to learn more about you, Amy. Like I've heard you speak before, and I know that you are just such an amazing entrepreneur. But I want to know a little bit more about you. I had no idea that your father worked at Estee Lauder. Can you tell us, more about you and like how that shaped your experience in beauty?
Yeah, he was at Estee Lauder when I was a little girl. And so from about age 2 till I was about 7, he worked there. And so I always was around early, in my childhood, manufacturing facilities and goop and beauty products. And we went to the family picnic every year for that Estee Lauder hosted, and the Estee Lauder extended family was always there. And so it was very much, my early memories of the beauty industry were really warm. And I was again like raised in a family business with my father. I mean, Lauder was still run by Estee. Joseph, her husband, who is Leonard's father, was also in the business. He was my dad's boss, actually, Estee Lauder's husband, Joseph. And my dad worked alongside Leonard.
Right.
All the kids were there. It was a really cool kind of environment. So I think that formed my perception of what beauty was all about.
Right.
And I loved the idea of being part of that collective and that team and that close-knit community.
Yeah.
But
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say, when I went to college, I had zero idea what I wanted to do with my life, zero idea going in and zero idea coming out.
Right.
I was a comparative religion major in university. I
Oh,
was
wow.
I was always very spiritual and very interested in spiritual systems, and always wanted to know more about Judaism and Islam and Mormonism and whatever it was. I was very curious about belief systems. And so when I went to university, I started taking all the courses in comparative religion. By the time I was declaring my major, I'd already taken enough classes to major in it. And I just loved it. I mean, I just absolutely loved it. Took some classes also in philosophy, sociology, but all sort of related to belief systems and why they exist, and then how sort of conventional religion gets formed. And wrote my junior paper on astrology, and wrote my senior thesis on virginity and how it was sort of a mechanism of the patriarchy to oppress women. And so what do you do with that kind of a degree?
Right. I'm like, did that like things that you learned, did that affect the way that you approach things in like just in life and in your business, or was it just like an experience for you?
That's a really good question. I mean, I think it must have impacted me. When I was graduating from university, I went to New York and I started interviewing in the beauty industry, and I interviewed at L'Oréal. And for some stupid reason, I had put my thesis topic on my resume. It's like somebody told me to do that. They're probably pulling a prank on me. And so I did. I was like, thesis, the role of virginity, in patriarchal society. Like, who does that?
Oh my
So
God.
they like cracked up when they saw that and sort of paraded my resume around the hallways of L'Oreal saying like, who is this girl? But I think not only did it probably help me get the job because they were like, she's so quirky, but I do think that in a lot of ways, marketing, because that was the discipline that I ended up being hired for, is very much about understanding people and societies and how they think and what motivates them and different types of communities. So I think in a lot of ways, I've probably applied subconsciously a lot of my education to a marketing discipline. But, it's not the kind of major that one typically equates with a business career.
Now that you've like gone through all of these things, what type of teenager were you? Because you're studying astrology and religion and all these different things. Like, were you super into like beauty and not necessarily just only makeup, but were you like, even though you were surrounded by it, were you into it yourself? Like, were you doing gloss or were you starting to wear makeup? Like, what was your relationship with beauty itself?
It's funny. I loved the industry and I loved the sort of formulation side of things. And I loved the manufacturing side of beauty. And I was really captivated by all of the sort of machinations of beauty, but I didn't wear makeup really at all. I did use skincare from a very early age. My mother and her mother had taught, through the generations of women in my family, skincare was always really important. Unfortunately, sun care wasn't as important as it should have been. I wish I was more focused on sun care, but I was a child of the 70s and we didn't really, we didn't know what we know now about sun care. But I was in high school, I was an athlete and I was a bit of a nerd and I wore ponytail every day and didn't really, maybe eyeliner and a bit of blush and lip gloss. Right. And I still don't know how to use makeup. I'm just not very good at it.
Well, it doesn't matter because once your skin looks good, like everything is good. So now, okay, so time has progressed, and I know that you spent some time at Joe Malone, which is one of my favorite brands. What was that experience? Because I love how you like grew up in this like family that was so like immersed into beauty. You worked at L'Oreal, now you're at Joe Malone as one of like the biggest brands in scent. So like, how did that what was that experience like?
Yeah, that was the best experience of my entire career, bar none, including my current experience. Working alongside Joe Malone was life-changing. I came into the company, I'd been working in New York in beauty, and I decided that I wanted to do a startup, went to Europe and worked for a startup for about 18 months. It was sort of an online beauty concept, and then decided that wasn't going to work and went to London, knocked on the door of Estee Lauder and, all the major beauty companies, their London headquarters. And I got this interview with what I thought, I'm embarrassed to say, was a man, Joe Malone, because I hadn't been living in the UK and I hadn't really, my head was under a rock at that stage. And I realized it was a woman and I started to understand what her business was all about. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is such an incredible brand. I can't believe I'm getting an interview. And it was a London-based business. She's from the UK. So the opportunity to be able to work with her as the founder was incredible. She's an incredible mentor of women. She's an incredible business person.
Wow.
She's really unbelievable at building relationships. We know that she's an incredible nose and creates beautiful fragrances, but she was also an esthetician by training.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. So she was an esthetician who basically saw clients like Princess Diana and Elton John. And she had been sort of an esthetician to the stars. She had inherited or taken over her mother's business. And so I learned a ton about skincare and I learned a ton about the skin barrier and how to take care of it from her as well. So very formative 5 years of my life.
Well, that just takes me perfectly into the next question, because now I want to talk all things SkinFix. I know we had this conversation, but I love the lipid peptide cream, the eczema dermatitis face balm, like all of those things are, so incredible to me. Like, when did you decide, like, you know what, I want to do my own thing? Like, what's the story of SkinFix? Like, we all know and love this brand now, but I'm sure, this was a labor of love. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Yes, you're a businesswoman and an entrepreneur. You know that it looks easier than it is.
Yes.
I was living after my experience in London. I got pregnant with my first baby, who's now 17, and moved to Eastern Canada, where my husband, their dad, is from, and thought I'd left beauty behind forever. And then I was working here for a supplement company and got introduced to a woman just sort of very fortuitously who had this incredible healing balm formula that her great-great-grandfather had created in Yorkshire, England in 1870, that the family, once they emigrated to Canada, had continued to create at home and sell privately. And it was a well-known sort of product, underground, sort of in Nova Scotia, like, oh my God, this is the cream that cures everything. I met her Loved the cream, thought it was really cool. It was loaded with active ingredients, pharmaceutical active ingredients, FDA approved at their active levels. And then what really captured my heart was that over the decades the family had been making this balm, they had collected literally hundreds of letters from people who had really serious skin issues, things like diabetic foot ulcers, all kinds of forms of dermatitis, psoriasis. They'd tried everything. They had seen all kinds of doctors. They finally found this balm from 1870, and it had given them back not only their healthy skin, but also their quality of life, their peace of mind, their confidence. And that's what really got me. And I thought, I originally started working with her just as a consultant to help her with her marketing calendar and to help her raise some money. And I fell in love, and I thought, this is really cool. I mean, clean was just happening at that point, kind of. It was even before clean was happening. Natural was sort of happening at mass. Clean hadn't happened yet at Sephora. And I was sort of ahead of the curve in terms of my thinking that I love that it's clean because I was very into wellness. But I really love the fact that it actually can perform as well as a pharmaceutical product or even like a prescription product.
Right.
And that was sort of 8 years ahead of its time. But I think, and it was all about skin barrier health is effectively, what the whole proposition was about with this balm was how to protect and heal the barrier to bring it back to health. So, it's been 8 years of, from buying the company. It took us a year and a half to sort of figure out what we were going to do with it, how we were going to manufacture it, and to launch our first retailer in Canada. And then 2.5 years later, our first retailer in the US. So it's been a long journey, but it's really, really rewarding to get testimonials from people on a daily basis who have used it and have had incredible results, and it's changed their lives. I mean, that sounds grandiose, but really when you have a skin issue, it can be really debilitating.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, for those who are listening or watching, Amy and I were talking before we started recording, and I have eczema, more so on my body, but I actually had like a breakout a few days ago, and it lasted longer. Usually it'll just be like maybe a day, but it lasted about 4 days. And I used the face balm for the first time, and it worked so incredibly. So now I'm like, oh my gosh, like this podcast is happening at the same time. So I know how it feels. And I mean, granted, like my issues might not be as severe as others, but I mean, yeah, I'm one of those people now because I'm just like, I've used the moisturizer, I've used all this, but now I'm like, what I think is great about SkinFix is that, I experience eczema most on my body. And I think that's what's missing with a lot of skincare brands. We do the face, but it's just like, there's other things happening. The skin is from top to bottom. So how does the SkinFix team ensure that the products are effective, but maintaining that promise of being clean? Because I know sometimes it's like when you have an issue, you're like, I don't care what it is, just put it on it so it fixes it, right? How do you guys maintain that?
It's a really good question because it's really hard. It's not easy. It takes a lot more time in many cases to develop the products. Excuse me. I mean, our chemist teases us that we're sort of a pain in the neck because nothing's straightforward with us. We don't just say we'd like a really good vitamin C serum and we like these ingredients and, what have you got? We're saying, this is the core root cause of this concern. These are some of the issues. And it's as much about what you use as what you don't use. And there are certain things that might work functionally, but could be potentially irritating. So when you're dealing with a damaged barrier, like in the case of eczema, you have to be so, so, so careful. Yeah. And our list of no ingredients is super long. It's the Sephora Clean List plus. Things like tea tree oil, a lot of people don't know this, was the allergen of the year by the American Association of Dermatology in 2014. It's a highly, highly, highly allergenistic ingredient. Now, if you can tolerate it, it's a great antifungal, but a lot of people can't tolerate it. So we have to know things like that, and we have to avoid potential ingredients that can be a problem. Things like kojic acid can be irritating, urea can be irritating. So we're navigating a lot of different things. And then we're putting together the ingredients that we believe are going to work to treat whatever concern it is. And then we're clinically testing it. So we're putting our money where our mouth is by putting it through a very expensive and rigorous third-party blind study where, the data doesn't lie. So we are testing ourselves even further, not every single formula, but most of the core formulas, just to sort of validate, okay, these ingredients actually are going to work. We make sure there aren't any adverse reactions, meaning that people don't disqualify themselves from the study because they've had a reaction. So we're watching for that too. We got to make sure it's gentle and effective. And it's only usually 30 to 35 respondents, but that is statistically significant. And that gives us enough of an idea that it's actually not only going to work, but be safe.
Right.
So it's a rigorous, expensive, long process. We don't mess around because we're working with skin disease and barrier health, you know?
And I love that your products are like it's literally on here, like it's tested and recommended by unbiased derms. I love that that's actually on the packaging, because we all know like clean is such a buzzword now, but to know that you guys can, say that without doubt, it's like, that's what you have to strive for. I think that's what a lot of companies strive for.
Absolutely. And the products that are clinically tested are tested and recommended by virtue of the clinical study. The products that don't go through a thorough, 12-week clinical get put through a panel of dermatologists that they look at the formula blind. So they can see all the ingredients and they see the formula. They have no idea who the brand is or what, and then they approve it or disqualify it. And there have been instances where they've asked us to take certain ingredients out because they find them to be potentially irritating. So, it's not just one of these sort of like, okay, you've paid your $5,000, here's your stamp. It's actually a panel of unbiased derms that are vetting every single formula we make.
I love that. So, and we all know there has been such an uptick in the skincare category as an effect of the pandemic. And I feel like you guys were already in a great place creating clean products, very mindful of your ingredients and the process. But what changed if anything, what changed for SkinFix? Like, was it just a period of like, okay, this is an inspiration for new products, or, what was your best selling products? Like, how did this last year affect the brand?
It was a game changer for our brand. I mean, the pandemic has been horrible and sad and challenging on so many levels. So I don't want to,
it was a great
not
year.
say that. But for us as a business, I think because of who we are, what we stand for, I mean, here we had a hand cream that was created 5 years ago for the dermatology community to treat serious dry skin and eczema on the hands, clinically proven, published study, serious medicinal hand cream. It also has happened to win 8 beauty awards because it's a beautiful texture, and our chemist is a genius. He's made something truly medicinal feel luxurious. But we had that hand cream that existed in our portfolio, and that obviously exploded during COVID because, we were one of the few truly emollient occlusive hand creams that's going to give you enough nourishment protection that's also fragrance-free, essential oil-free, silicone-free. We were one of the only ones on the market. So that hand cream exploded. Triple lipid peptide cream exploded from a combination, I think, of people being very mindful of their barrier, not wanting to use a lot of actives and further irritate their skin under their mask, but also Hiram Yarbrough.
Yes.
Loves that product and talked about us throughout 2020 organically. And that was just an unbelievable blessing. Products like the dermatitis face balm took off because, of course, we were all wearing masks and getting friction, irritation, and dermatitis from our masks. And, dermatitis face balm, we were the only clean brand, probably the only brand. We created that again because of a dermatologist request to create a product to treat eczema on the face and specifically around the eye and on the eyelid. So it's ophthalmologist tested too, which most eye products are not.
Yeah,
so it can be used on the eyelid.
What you put on the face, because then if the wrong ingredient can actually thin your skin, right?
Steroids and hydrocortisone are absolutely necessary, but they can't be used for long periods of time. You need to take breaks and, try to avoid using them when you don't need them because they can damage the barrier. So our products can be used. They were designed to be used as what we call adjuncts alongside or with a steroid cream, but also as a replacement to a steroid product. So we just it was timing. It was right place, right time. We just happened to have this portfolio of products that all of a sudden was important to the consumer, and the derm community, I think rose in prominence as skin influencers throughout the pandemic because they took to the social media networks and we relied on them for information about COVID and about maskne and about hand eczema. And they became, skin influencers, as they always have been, but in a more public way. And all of those, and our price point too is pretty accessible.
Yeah.
I think all of those things collided to make SkinFix a, really important brand in 2020. And then going into 2021, we've been really, really blessed. It's timing and luck.
I mean, yeah, but preparation, right? You said, 8 years ago you had the vision. So sometimes it's, it's delayed, not denied. So
I love that.
What would you say is next for the brand?
Yeah, I mean, for us, there's a long list of skin concerns that we're still really wanting to tackle. There's a couple that we've been working on for 4 years, one in particular for 4 years. We have literally run advisory board panels with derms, talked about this concern, like tried to get underneath it, gone back to the chemist, come back with products. And like, we're going to get there in early 2022. We're really excited about that category finally. But these are real issues. These are things that like people have concerns and are not being treated. These aren't sort of, not to diminish, listen, I love skincare. I buy things all the time, but this isn't just a sort of trendy ingredient story. This is about a real issue that people have. We're launching acne this fall, which will be huge for us. We're actually launching a new exfoliating pad next month. That is, we'll have to send you some, Jaleesa. They're amazing.
Oh, I love the color of the packaging too. Of course, we all love cute packaging, but I love it.
Well, the green is fun and optimistic as we come out of COVID, right? It's just sort of bright and cheery. They're oversized, biodegradable pads with AHAs, 2% BHA, 2% niacinamide enzymes. So they exfoliate and brighten, but they also treat acne, and they can be used on the backs of the arms, the bikini line, under the arms, wherever we get shading, dark spots, keratosis pilaris.
I have that right now. Yes, on my arms.
These would be great. Just make sure you moisturize after, because keratosis pilaris is actually a dry skin condition. People think it's acneic, but it's really about dry skin. But they're also safe for people that suffer from fungal acne, malassezia. Oh, wow. So we're really excited about these. And then this will sort of take us into our whole acne collection in September. So we just keep we got to have our ear to the ground with the derm community, with influencers, with consumers, like where is the need? Where do people have concerns that aren't being met? What are their pain points? And how do we then create clean products to tackle those? It's what we love to do. It's our passion.
But I appreciate that though, because, I try new products, I do a lot of content, but when I need something for an issue that I have, I need something that works. So I appreciate that you guys take your time with each product, because, eventually you go back, like I always call it your desert island products, right? You always go back to what works, like what works, you know what I mean? Regardless of what the packaging might look like, it's really like, that face balm now, I'm like, I need to have another one just for a backup, because now it's like, I always need to have this, you know what I mean?
We will send some to you.
And happy to support. But you have such a beautiful family, and, we've spoken all about business, but I want to know this, right? How would you describe like your perfect family, like getaway, like no responsibilities, no phone for a week, maybe not even with your family, maybe by yourself? Because I know you've like these picnics and all these things have been ingrained in you. What would be like your perfect getaway? No work, no iPhone, no Microsoft messages.
I love this question. For those that are into astrology, I have a Venus Cancer, which is what Venus is like, who you love, how you love, and your work. But my Cancer Venus is all about family. I love anything with family. That's why I loved those Lauder family parties back in the day. So definitely with my family, with my kids. It's interesting. We all have such unique interests. So some place that I think embodies all of our interests would be someplace like Italy, which I've been to. The kids have not. I love the outdoors. I love to move my body. So being near a beach, I grew up a lot of my life in California. So being able to have the ocean and go to the beach and go on hikes would suit my sort of meet my needs, my moon needs that would nourish me. My son is a huge history buff. I mean, he could probably teach a university level course on history. It's amazing what he knows. So for him, the history of Italy and being able to see the museums and the sort of historical, like Pompeii, places like that. And for my daughter, she's a total creative. She is, as an aesthetic. So the museums, the fashion, people watching, and we all love food. All three of us are total foodies. So I feel like Italy embodies like all of us. So a couple of weeks in Italy to just wander and go to different places would be
anywhere
amazing.
in particular, or just Italy in general?
I definitely would. Well, I'd want to hit like some of the major cities, like Florence, Rome, and for me, Milan. I love Milan. And then I'd love to hit Tuscany. I'd love to hit Sicily. I mean, kind of, maybe we take a month.
Yeah.
Do the whole boot.
I'm like,
top
guys,
to bottom.
Hold down the brand. Amy will be right back. Just don't panic.
Exactly. We're taking all the vacation that none of us have taken for a year and a bit, right? And packing it all in one holiday.
Exactly. Wait, so what is your sign? You're Cancer?
I am a Gemini sun sign, but I have a Sag moon and a Sag rising, which like big picture thinker, also a bit of a wanderlust. I mean, I could tell you my whole chart, but Venus Cancer. So how I love, who I love, work is like healing, Cancer nurturing. My team teases me. They call me the overprotective mama of the skin barrier because I'm like, that's not good for the barrier. That's going to irritate.
Right.
Mercury Taurus, which means I'm pretty direct and how I communicate and how I think. I'm very linear in how I think. My mind is a little slow. Like I need to read something 5 times before it sticks.
Right.
I love astrology. It's my side hustle. How about you?
I'm a Capricorn, but I don't know my all the things. I just know that I'm a Capricorn and I was born at like 3 a.m. I have to look it up. And then sometimes I'm like, do I want to? Because then I'm going to be obsessed with like looking up every single thing. So I just like, I stick with that.
That's so Capricorn. That response is so Capricorn because you kind of can't just touch on something, you've got to go deep.
Exactly. And then I'm going to get super obsessed with it. I'm just like, I'm going to stay, on the base level and just.
Well, if you decide Chani, capital C, capital H, capital A, capital N, capital I, Chani is the best app I have ever found for astrology. Chani Nicholas is the most amazing astrologer. Download our app, pay the $12.99 a month or whatever it is. And it will, if you want to get into it, it will change your world. Like she goes deep enough to make it really meaty, but not too deep to confuse people, I find.
What do you think of, there's another app, I forgot what it's called, but like where you can, the Pattern. What do you think about the Pattern? Do you know that app?
I don't know the Pattern. No.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
I'll have to check it out.
Yeah. So the Pattern is like your timing and like you can once you put your date and stuff, on like what time you were born, you can actually like pair yourself up with somebody else and like see how what you're going through at that period, like your timing, the world's timing. And then they have like a bunch of stuff like relationship transformation, release old habits. Like it's really in depth. I actually think it's really good. You should check it out.
I'm going to check it out. I'm going to check it out. It sounds a lot like Chani because she does the transits and the progressions and all of that too. But I mean, listen, in my book, there's never enough information when it comes to like spirituality and your path and your growth. I mean, it's like what I do in every minute of my spare time.
I love that.
Analyze myself and my friends and try to get people sort of.
So do you meditate?
I am not a good meditator, Jaleesa. I try. Gemini, Sun, Sag, Moon. Like I do my own version. I have my own little altar here in my office, and I do try to make it a regular practice. But if it's probably like a few minutes. How about you?
Sometimes I do like a 10-minute guided meditation on YouTube, or sometimes just kind of like lay in silence. What I've learned to do is instead of trying to clear my mind, I think of myself meditating in like I have this picture in my mind where it's like this beautiful stone mountains around me and like water flowing. So that's the picture that I think of. So I don't think of anything else. So that kind of calms my mind. So I'm meditating in that thought So I'm not like, my thoughts aren't going here, there, and everywhere. So I'm still thinking about something. You know, they say like, don't think of anything. I'm like, okay, I can't.
There are no rules to meditation,
Yeah.
truly. I mean, I believe like if that is what gets you focused, that's great. You know, that's important.
So I have two more questions.
Yeah.
Do you listen to music? Like, what is your current favorite song?
You know, right at the minute, Sarah Bareilles Brave is like my go-to. Yeah, I love her. I love her. I love her. And she just came into my feed because she's doing a new, I think it's a movie. And I was like, oh, what song of hers do I really love that I need to listen to right now? And it's Brave. And I'm listening to it constantly at the moment. I'm not listening to the radio much, so I don't know what's kind of happening in the world of music, sadly.
I don't listen to the radio either. I just listen to what I want to hear. So
yeah. What kind of music do you like?
I'm really into R&B. I'm from Trinidad, so I listen to soca music sporadically. Not sporadically all the time, but you know, different moods. But most of the time, my mood is R&B. There's a guy. His name is Kaleem Taylor. He's British. But his family is from the Caribbean. He's amazing. His music is like, I have a playlist on Spotify. I'll send it to you.
Yes, please. My daughter and my son are so into music. They're 16 and 17, and if they don't know him, I'm definitely going to introduce them, but they just like carnivores for music.
So good. So how can we stay connected to you, Amy? You're so fun. I would
love to see you in person when I get back to New York.
Please do.
I have to go to one of your amazing restaurants there. I'm so missing New York food.
Oh my God.
The best way to connect with me is really on Instagram. I mean, at SkinFix Inc. Mm-hmm. I very sadly read and respond to all the product questions.
Oh, wait,
I can't help myself.
You're on the actual SkinFix account.
Yes. Well, I answer all the product questions. So either I answer them on the account or my team sends them to me. But if anyone asks about a product, it's me answering, unless it's a question we've had multiple times and they'll cut and paste an answer I've given before. But I get a lot of product questions every day, which I love to answer. And so if you DM SkinFix and specifically ask me a question, it will come directly to me. And then my own Instagram is Amy Gordinier. And I'm not as active on it as I am on SkinFix, but I will certainly get to you eventually. My daughter's like, Mom, you have to read your comments every day and you have to respond. I don't have a lot of followers. It's just friends right now.
That's fine. So we'll definitely share the SkinFix account. And I want to thank you so much. This was so fun. I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with me. I feel like now I have a whole new love, not just for the brand, but for you. You're amazing. Like, I'm like, how did
thank you, Jaleesa.
Yeah, I'm so happy.
Well, I can't wait to get back to New York and see you in person at a beauty event, or just go out and have a coffee or a cocktail.
A socially distanced brunch.
Yeah, exactly. And please send me that playlist.
Oh my gosh, I will. I will when we come off this. So thank you so much. I'm going to wrap up now and I will talk to you soon. Have a good one.
Thanks, Jaleesa. Take care. Have a good weekend.